Welcome to the Marine Conservation Happy Hour. This is Dr. Scarlett Smash. I'm here with Dr. Craken. Dr. Craken, my co-host, who looks like he's Indiana Jones, but actually, can I just say, I know you look like Indiana Jones, but we actually have the true Indiana Jones of marine conservation.
Actually, I look like Carlos Peredo. That's who I look like with this hat.
An older version. All right, so that is our guest, Carlos Peredo. Carlos, we thank you so much for being with us so much. We don't want to let you go. We're so happy to have you here. And we're going to talk about how do we become the Indiana Jones of marine conservation. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. My name is Carlos Peredo. I'm a paleontologist. I study fossil whales and fossil marine mammals at the University of Michigan, and through the generosity of the National Science Foundation as well.
So we refer to you as the Indiana Jones of fossil whales. Now, I've known you for a little while, so why didn't you just tell us about your story? How did you end up getting into being one of the fossil whale experts in the world, really?
Sure, yeah. So it's a funny story, right? I knew pretty early on in college that I wanted to be a paleontologist. I wanted to go into paleontology, but like I think just about every aspiring paleontologist, I thought I wanted to study dinosaurs, right? And don't get me wrong, dinosaurs are cool, right? We all do. And I still like dinosaurs, but as my career progressed and I got a little further along, a couple things became apparent to me. And the first one was that dinosaur paleontology, I felt, was a little saturated. There were a lot of paleontologists working there, and it was going to be a little bit difficult to make a name for yourself. And at the same time, I was starting to really develop a great interest in mammals as a system. I was becoming very interested in how mammals work and how the mammalian body plan sort of evolves and adapts to different environments and things like that. And so I met my eventual PhD advisor, Mark Ewan, who's a professor at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia.
Very, very nice chap. Very, very nice chap.
Yeah, he's a very, very good man. And he was sort of pitching to me that I should go do my PhD with him. And I wasn't really interested in whales. And one of the reasons for that, I often joke, I'm not a whale hugger. I did not come to study marine mammals because of the charismatic megafauna or anything like that. That's not what attracted them to me. But what Mark convinced me of was that whales are a dramatic textbook example of evolutionary change. They're one of the organisms on the planet that most pushes the extremes of how evolution works. And that really interested me. So understanding whales as a system for understanding how far can you push the mammalian body plan? Yeah, okay, maybe you can get it in the water. How deep can you get it? How crazy can this go, right? We have, beaked whales diving for 8 hours or to ridiculous depths. And those are the kinds of questions now where the whale for me is the system to understand just how extreme mammals can become.
Yeah, I can really relate to that because my favorite animals are wolves and cephalopods. But I look at them and go, oh, they're just so cool. But it's really the marine mammals that sort of spark that. Why are they doing that? How are they doing that? How could they possibly do that? Those are the ones which have all the sort of questions, the intellectual questions that immediately start coming. Whereas, as I said, I just look at a wolf and go, they're so pretty.
Yeah, I think that's it, right? I mean, as an aspiring paleontologist, at first there were delusions of, oh, maybe measuring T-Rex bite force or understanding if velociraptors were pack hunters or all these things. And it's not that those aren't interesting questions, but it's just that ultimately I realized that my interest in dinosaurs was kind of superficial. I was interested in them because they're cool, but whales were a means to answer really interesting fundamental scientific questions for me that sold me on switching to marine mammals.
Totally agree. So you got introduced to Mark
Yes.
And Mark is one of the sort of world experts on basilosaurs, which we talked about in the live stream and so forth, and marine conservation.
So go
Happy Hour.
on YouTube.
Go and listen to our discussion about the basilosaurs there, which are a really cool, groovy type of prehistoric marine mammal. But you actually have behind you a Dorudon, which is the sort of ancestor of modern whale, or the close ancestor of modern whale. So how do we go from these serpentine basilosaurs that we talk about in the YouTube to modern marine mammals?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. About 30 million years ago, the world gets a lot colder, and we see these sort of ancestral whales like Basilosaurus or Dorudon go extinct, and it's the modern groups that survive as the world gets colder. And instead, we see modern whales really come onto the scene 25 to 30 million years ago.
And in terms of the sort of modern whales, which are the closest to these prehistoric ones, do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. And we go back and forth. That part of the whale family tree remains a little bit contentious, in part because there are some really remarkable fossils that are as of yet unpublished, and we're waiting for those dominoes to land to be able to say a little bit more.
Okay, so we might hear in the near future that one of these modern whale groups is actually older and more ancestral to the other ones.
Stay tuned. Maybe I'll come back in a couple of years, do another episode.
Well, thank goodness I haven't written a textbook where I'll have to completely rewrite the whole evolution of marine mammals. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Carlos. Thank you very much for joining us as well, Dr. Scarlett Smash. And thank you very much, listeners, for tuning in.